Coming up on Arirang News, South Korean President Moon Jae-in reshuffles his top security officials, naming new heads of intelligence, the unification ministry, and a new national security advisor to try and get things moving again in inter-Korean relations. The National Assembly gets ready for a vote tonight on the government's third extra budget for COVID-19. The main opposition party, though, likely to boycott. And Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun visits the city of Gwangju, which has seen a big spike in coronavirus cases. He urges people to follow the quarantine guidelines like wearing masks. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The presidential office on Friday announced a reshuffle of key diplomatic and security posts. President Moon Jae-in has tapped former lawmaker Park Ji-won as the head of the National Intelligence Service. For Unification Minister, Moon picked Lee In-young, four-term lawmaker with the ruling Democratic Party. Park and Lee will have to be confirmed through hearings by the National Assembly. President Moon named Seo Hoon, the outgoing NIS chief, as National Security Advisor. Chung Yi-yong, the outgoing National Security Advisor, and Im Jung-seok, former presidential chief of staff, have been tapped as special advisors for diplomatic and security affairs. The shakeup comes amid a prolonged stalemate in inter-Korean relations. For the first time in 5 days, South Korea has confirmed more than 60 new cases of COVID-19. A growing number of them are being reported outside of Seoul, so the Prime Minister on Friday went to Gwangju for an emergency briefing on the situation in that city. Ji-young reports.
South Korea continues to see more COVID-19 cases, reporting 63 new infections on Friday, of which 52 are local transmissions. With July 1st seeing 51 new cases and Thursday adding 54, it's the first time in 5 days that the country has surpassed the 60 mark. Concerns continue to spike over regions outside of Seoul and its surrounding areas. They confirmed they combined 32 cases, more than Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province, for the second straight day. Once considered an almost safe haven from the virus, the southwestern city of Gwangju is now on high alert as the number of cases there has been jumping fast in recent days. Calling the situation rather unusual, South Korea's Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun visited the city on Friday to speak at an emergency briefing.
In order to stop the spread, it's crucial we have cooperation from all citizens. Please refrain from visiting high-risk facilities and actively follow virus prevention measures.
He said the sudden rise in numbers originated from people neglecting to wear face masks or not maintaining a safe distance. The government also pledged to secure enough hospital beds and medical staff. Regarding the recent coronavirus transmission at an elementary school in Daejeon, everybody at the school has tested negative. According to city officials, some 760 students and 100 teaching staff were found to have not contracted the virus from the 3 students who previously tested positive. The results seem to have calmed concerns of secondary infections that had the health authorities and parents on high alert for a couple of days. Ji-young, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, says his former boss might meet again with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un before the election this November if he thinks that would help his re-election chances. Speaking to foreign press in New York City on Thursday, Bolton said President Trump could make that his October surprise if he feels the need to. In his new memoir, Bolton claims that President Trump was never serious about reaching a deal with Kim and wanted the summits as a publicity stunt. In the latest round of polls, Trump trails his Democratic rival Joe Biden nationally by double digits. Lawmakers in South Korea's National Assembly have taken up the country's largest ever supplementary budget proposal worth $30 billion to support people in the pandemic and revive the economy. It could be up for a full floor vote as early as 7 p.m. Parliament's Budget Coordination Committee is in the final stages of screening it. Not only are the only ones voting are likely to be the ruling Democratic Party because the main opposition United Future Party has been boycotting the budget review process in opposition to the ruling party's decision to allocate standing committee chairs to its own lawmakers. With many countries having closed their borders because of the pandemic, President Moon Jae-in has asked Argentina to let in more South Korean business people. He spoke on the phone Friday with President Alberto Fernandez, whom he asked for continued interest and support. Fernandez praised South Korea for its transparent and speedy response to the pandemic, saying that it's become a model for the world. And he expressed gratitude for Korea sharing its experience through virtual conferences and providing quarantine equipment. Moon called Argentina a friendly country, a quality he said he hopes will help it overcome the pandemic. The South Korean president also asked for Argentina's support in approving the South Korea-Mercosur trade agreement at an early date, and for its interest in South Korean steel producer POSCO building a plant in Argentina for lithium extraction. South Korea's foreign exchange reserves were up last month. According to the Bank of Korea, reserves rose to around $410 billion, an increase of $3.4 billion from May. The BOK said the jump is mainly due to an increase in revenue from foreign currency assets, as well as a weaker greenback. As of the end of May, South Korea's FX reserves were the 9th largest in the world. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Friday, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you for making time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Well, stocks on Wall Street were higher on Thursday. Employment numbers coming in better than market expectations. The Nasdaq setting another all-time high. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, as you said, U.S. market added quite significantly additionally. If you look at Dow Jones, it was up about 0.4%. S&P added about 0.5% as well. Nasdaq as well by 0.5%, and hitting the new record of 10,208. Clearly, there's a continuation of concern about the COVID-19 adding additional patients. If you look at the world number, it surpassed 10.7 million, of which more than 500,000 died and more than 5.5 million recovered. In the U.S., the epicenter of disease, the number of infections surpassed 2.7 million, followed by Brazil of 1.4 million, Russia by 0.6 million. And in terms of the death-wise, Brazil has overtaken the United States as the country with the highest COVID-19 death toll. However, though, if you look at the Wall Street, the reason why it moved much stronger despite these news of the COVID-19 is because of the better-than-expected employment numbers. The government data showed that U.S. economy added 4.8 million jobs in June, well above market expectation of 2.9 million. Also, in the past, people talked about how U.S. jobless rate and unemployment ratio might hit 20%. But in reality, it's falling continuously after hitting the highest number of 14.7. As of May, it went down to 11.1% from previous month of 13.3%. Also, beating the consensus estimation of 12.4%. However, though, initial jobless claims rose by 1.427 million, which is slightly above expectation of 1.38 million. Overall, this kind of stronger than expected the employment numbers, U.S. market did quite strongly, and that has resulted into most of other countries doing quite well today.
And the Korean markets higher today, too, taking their cue in part from Wall Street. The Kospi is actually now back to where it was last year. Tell us about the local markets.
Yes, as you said, Kospi is up by 0.8%, hitting 1250 level. And Kosdaq is also breaking 750 level, rising by 1.3%. The positive news coming from U.S. added the positiveness for Kospi, but actually the real impact was because coming from the Chinese economic numbers. If you look at the China's data, the PMI numbers, the service PMI numbers for the small and mid-cap companies, which is the Caixin PMI numbers. These numbers are all coming in at record high level. Especially for the service numbers, it came in at 58.4, rising from 55 in the previous month. And it is a record high number in the last 3 years. So clearly the recovery that's happening in China is quite strong, which means that domestic consumption is picking up within China, which does have positive implication for Korean companies, as Korea export more than 20% of the overall export to China. So clearly this is a positive news affecting Korea's numbers to be better. And In terms of the overall consumer price index, it's unchanged. In terms of domestic consumption, reasonably okay. The really key factor is what's happening to the export. And hopefully we will see the export numbers improving going into the future. So far, the export numbers have improved, but still, nevertheless, it's a YOY decline by about 10% level. The previous month was declined by 20% level. So it is improving, but nevertheless, still declining. All in all, if the Korean economy is to recover, we need to see these export numbers improving to the positive territories. With Chinese numbers coming in better, hopefully we will see these numbers happening in the second half of this year.
Well, we're almost out of time, but let's talk about the exchange rate real quick. The Korean won back down around to the 1,200 level against the dollar. Tell us about the Korean currency.
Yes, Korean currency is not going to be moving much. I think the 1,200 range would be probably fairly reasonable number. The positive indication coming from China, domestic consumption picking up, Korea's consumption is quite steady, all resulting into stable currencies. And also these news of the U.S. having a huge amount of COVID-19 patients, that puts a negativities towards the dollars. So because of that, we think the range bound will remain to be stayed, and meaning that about 1,200 level of won to dollar rate will remain in the future.
All right, Mr. Yu, thanks so much for coming on today. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
South Korea is holding a nationwide retail sales campaign to boost consumption. The big discounts across the country on everything from fashion to groceries. It's been promoted in all kinds of fun ways, and halfway through now, sales are up significantly. Kim Sung-min reports.
1 week since the start of the nationwide Donghaeng sale, it has been seeing impressive sales figures. The clothing industry, one of the hardest hit industries during the COVID-19 outbreak, saw a 23% increase in sales compared to the previous week. Its home shopping style e-commerce shows have also been a hit. According to the Ministry of SMEs and Startups, one e-commerce show held on June 29th saw around $80,000 of sales within 2 hours, with 11,000 viewers at a time. All the items promoted by government ministers on the Buy Value Live Together platform sold out. The women's clothing on the segment hosted by the Minister of Gender Equality and Family saw 30 times as many sales as usual. On the last day of the e-commerce show on Friday, a non-contact K-pop concert will be held at KSPO Dome with a studio set up at Sungnaemun Gate in Seoul. Fans can watch online on platforms such as Naver. Over the weekend, Jeollabuk-do Province and Chungcheongbuk-do Province are holding local festivals to sell various living, food, and beauty products with discounts of at least 30%. Large supermarkets nationwide are also gearing up for large discount events to attract customers over the weekend. Lotte Mart will put discounts of up to 50% on some of its best-selling products, and E-Mart has a discount on a range of products including the seasonal favorite, watermelons. Kim Sung-min, Arirang News.
Now, typical museum exhibitions are about looking at things, whether paintings, sculptures, or artifacts. But in Seoul, the Sound Museum offers an auditory experience. It's even got some works by Paik Nam-june, thought of by many as the founder of video art in Korea. Our Kim Bo-kyung takes us there.
This exhibition is not about seeing. It's about listening. At the Sound Museum exhibition at the museum in Seoul, visitors can enjoy 22 works of art that use sound to convey their message.
Hearing is interesting in that it is more than just listening to sounds. It is letting us feel the wavelength of the sound through our bodies. Through this exhibition, we wanted people to experience something new, like having hearing as a main way to enjoy art.
In one of the audiovisual pieces, the audience is guided into an infinite space-like area made by sound and lasers. The author used multiple algorithms to synchronize sounds and lasers that would infinitely vary, never repeating. Another artist draws a parallel between white noise and white light. Visitors can be completely immersed in various colors of lights, as if the white light is divided into a full color spectrum. Various speakers give different sounds too, as if white noise is broken down into different colors of sound. In contrast, this anechoic chamber observes sound and light and doesn't allow any sound to be heard. Another beautiful piece of artwork that looks like a cluster of soap bubbles. When the audience blows on the sensors, light is accompanied by sound. When all sensors are blown simultaneously, all the lights illuminate, making the most fantastic sound.
The exhibition also includes this work of art by Paik Nam-june, known as the founder of visual arts in Korea. It is said that his style of art is based on his attempts to visualize music.
Televisions, an icon of communication, were used to make motorbike riding robot with a bow and arrow, showing Paik's belief that the whole universe can be one. Paik's artwork will be part of the exhibition until the end of August, but the rest of the exhibition runs until December 27th. 김보경, 아리랑 뉴스.
That brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.